I think there should be term limits for people on The View, particularly talentless trust fund babies. The Meghan McCain anxiety attack continues, but this time it's not about attacks on her trust fund baby riches. Now it's about race.
Mitt Romney has now done that. There's a list of people, right?
There's a list of people, but I'm just saying more people should come out. He should step down. I don't have patience.
Steve King they're talking about.
For this. I don't think anybody has tolerance for this in any way. I would like us to move forward and pass.
Except for the entirety of the Republican Party that supported him in his reelection, including Chuck Grassley did a video for him. By the way, even as of a week ago, even as all the other people were jumping ship in the new media climate after the election, Ted Cruz didn't fully denounce Steve King, and I believe still said he would accept support from him. So your big, wide point, she's totally wrong on, and even narrow point, also wrong.
I don't have patience for this. I don't think anybody has tolerance for this in any way. I would like us to move forward and pass things that I thought were done in the 60s. Apparently they are not. He's a bad dude.
Should he be censored? Should he be censored?
Anything to get him the hell out of Congress, I don't really care.
Censored.
I'm serious. I don't want to keep talking about.
I'm sorry. I mean, dude, you didn't know that, like, this is what I mean. One need not watch all of Eyes on the Prize as a documentary, though they should. One need not read histories of the civil rights movement, or certainly, God forbid, something like, about the Black Panthers or something. I mean, whoa, I don't want her to actually have, a seizure from her, class anxiety and entitlement anxiety. But okay, I know we're in a world now where a guy like Jordan Peterson doesn't know the basics of civil rights law and is called the most important intellectual in the Western world. But you're the daughter of a guy who served in the Senate for decades. You comment on politics for a living, and you didn't know that this stuff was, quote unquote, taken care of in the 60s. And incidentally, you didn't also know that the party you support has been steadily gutting all of those things in Congress as well as the Supreme Court. I mean, of course, I'm sure she wouldn't know that part. But I mean, not even the 60s part? Come on.
Crap like this. I'm a political analyst. I don't want to keep reliving stuff that I thought we had passed by a long time ago.
Can he be?
I'm sorry. I don't think other people want to relive it either. Like the people who are on the receiving end of it and aren't multimillionaire trust fund babies in a studio.
Should he be? Can he be tossed out?
Obvious.
Anything.
That's the big question.
Can he be
because
tossed out of Congress?
in history, there are only 20 people in Congress that have been pushed out. The problem that some people have is he wasn't voted in by a board. He was voted in by his
But
constituents.
if there's enough pressure from Republicans in the party and Mitch McConnell and leaders and people like you and I on TV, if pressure mounts, we've seen it in different fields. Why can't it be the same?
And they strip all of his duties, so you're in office, but there's really nothing you can actually do there. And that's what censoring is. So they've taken him off his committee, so he really doesn't have a job there.
This is the time to do it. I mean, I remember, Joy, you were pretty upset when Al Franken stepped down. And I think the Democrats wanted to take the moral high ground.
Yeah. And he did that willingly.
Did they get anywhere with it? Right? But Republicans now, with this, I think, could make such a significant statement by forcing him to resign. But will Republicans now step up to the plate with Donald Trump? Because he has been using, I think, the border wall as sort of this dog whistle for racism. The government is still shut down, and I think it's all about, let's not let all these brown people in, right? Unless they're working for farmers, unless they're working in agriculture. So now will the Republican Party step up to him and say, we don't want this anymore?
There's 42% of this country that support the wall. Are they all racist?
That's a good question.
I'm asking you that. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there are a lot of people that believe in security.
Is Donald Trump racist?
But I'm not referring. I don't know.
Okay, so the point is, I mean, that's ridiculous.
I mean, of course, the answer to Donald Trump is yes.
And the answer to the 42% thing is, yeah, probably.
It depends. Look, it depends how. Look, if you define racism in any functional sense, the answer is yes.
Is holding racist ideas?
The answer is yes.
Because it's way higher than 42%.
Right. That's what. Look, the way Republicans want to define it, no, it isn't 42%.
Attend Klan rallies.
Yes. Now, if you want to define it in a more reality-based way, the answer would be every single white person. And I'm not interested, like, look, I'm not interested in like the performance and the signaling politics of this, but like the just historical reality of this country is one that white supremacist ideas have been encultured in this country. That's part and parcel of the economic and political development of this country. It's inescapable. It's the air we breathe. Now, can it be changed through politics? Is it a metaphysical static fact? No. I reject the argument that says it is. But it's the water we're swimming in. So this is actually a really good departure point here, because if on one hand you have the Republican just denial of racism, which is that unless you're at a Klan rally, you're not racist, even though all of their leadership is racist, even though they're constantly running racist campaigns. And then, maybe there's a not equivalent in any way, because we're not drawing a false equivalency, but another dynamic that would sort of, oh, yeah, this is an example. Chuck Johnson, who, as far as I know, I don't know very much about him. I've heard that he denies the Holocaust. I believe he got kicked off of Twitter for racist statements. If I understand correctly, here he is throwing with Richard Spencer.
The definitely not white power sign.
Yeah, here he is throwing a white power sign next to Richard Spencer. And here he was yesterday walking with Representative Philip Rowe and Andy Harris. Those are two Congress Republican members of the House Republican Caucus. Again, this is a racist party. Then there's debates inside the left about the distinctions of how you deal with racism in terms of organizing spaces. And I mean, there's a lot of complexities to that debate, and I have critiques of how some of these things get played out that I don't think are smart, I don't think are effective. I think, again, there's a lot of nuances to this conversation. But I would actually say that the 42% number is a great meeting ground of having that is expanding it in a way that makes absolute sense, which is that if you have bought into a policy structure that is predicated on a conspiracy theory and is predicated purely on racial fear and paranoia, then yes, by any functional use of the term, you're racist. Now, could that change? Could some of these people be educated? So, I have to say maybe, because again, I don't want to assert it as a metaphysical static fact. But in that conversation, well, 42% of people are interested in security. No, they're not. And security, I don't think she's actually doing it in this way, but security is a dog whistle.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody knows what that means. And you have Tucker Carlson doing crypto Nazi talking points every night on the main right-wing channel in the United States on cable news, equating this stuff and actually spelling out what this actually means for people, which is my neighborhood looks different. Okay? And yes, that is indeed racism. So by any I actually love that 42% number, because it's like the real and broader answer is like, yes, everybody, as a historical contingency, we're all subsumed in it. If you've been, if your essentialist identity has been created as white, and that isn't, and I know some idiots, alt-right people, are like, gee, they're blah, blah, blah. That's just historical reality. Read a fucking book.
This is why
But if you want to, just to button it, if you want to make that point really concrete, I think that's that 42% number is actually a really good way to operationalize it. Has your paranoia and delusion about this stuff gotten operationalized to such a point that you support shutting down the federal government to support a fake policy over an imaginary problem that purely flows out of that paranoia? Yup. Great. So we got 42% of people that need a whole hell of a lot of work.
This is why I always reference Ibram Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning.
Yeah.
Because the introduction talks about racist ideas he himself has had about black people. And I think for a lot of white people, they need to see a black person do something before they can figure out how to do it. So, yeah, check that out.